Being someone who overplans and overthinks things can be an absolute prison in life and on trail. So if you're one of those who already has a spreadsheet with your daily mileages sorted out, if you already have a room full of resupply boxes with labels ready to ship, if you already know what hostels you want to stay at for most of the trail, then you're probably an overplanner. And overplanning is what we're going to talk about today. Alright, welcome back to my channel, y'all. My name is Trey. I go by Early Riser on trail. And this channel is really nothing more than me having some thoughts, hitting the record button, verbalizing those thoughts out of the community, and then letting you guys respond down in the comments. From all of that, the hope is that we build a deeper understanding on these topics to help people and their experiences on trail, but more so and more importantly, to help people with their lives. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about overplanners. Now, all you underplanners, you're not off the hook. That's going to be the next episode sometime probably next week. But for now, we're going to focus on overplanners. And the reason why I'm focusing on that first is I have tendencies to overplan. Especially in the beginning of my thru hike on the AT, which was my first long hike. I had the tendency to try to overplan everything. So 1064, 1084 will be 20. So tomorrow we'll go down around PATC Milesburn Cabin and camp out right there. That's the goal, or the Ridge Road, campsite north of road. Or we could go on down to the Birch Run shelter if I want to do 27. So we'll see, but that's where we'll be. We'll be just short of the AT midpoint, which is a 1094.9. So that'll be cool. Hit that on, what is that, Wednesday? Now, when we talk over planning, there are different degrees and levels of over planning. Did I have a spreadsheet with daily mileages sorted out before I stepped on trail? Hell no. Like in my brain, that doesn't even make sense. But I promise you, there's people watching this video right now that have that spreadsheet. They have weeks of their hike already planned out. For all of those who have thru hiked this trail already, you kind of laugh and maybe chuckle because you know how useless that's going to be. But we have to understand why people have a tendency to overplan, and that's what we're going to discuss. But let's start with me, because I can only speak for my experiences. Why do I overplan? Because I have anxiety. If you haven't watched the last couple of videos, we talk about anxiety and we talk about introverts and extroverts. You need to watch those videos and it will build a deeper understanding of what we're talking about this week, because all of that comes into play when we're talking about overplanning. The example for me, my anxiety led me to want to control whatever I could control in the moment to make sure I get the desired outcome in the future. My biggest fear was I'm going to get to a road crossing or get to a resupply point and I didn't already have a plan sorted out. Again, it makes us feel like we're in control when honestly we're really not in control. For some of you, that's not even ringing true in your head right now. You're saying, the more things that I have planned out, the more control I will have in the future. So if you understand yourself well enough to know that you have a tendency to be anxious or have anxiety, you're also going to have a tendency to be an overplanner on trail, which means you are probably an overplanner in your life. What does that mean? That means you love schedules, you love routines. When the things that you've planned out or you thought through in your head don't plan out the way that you want, it creates stress in your life. And then you go into crisis action mode, trying to get everything wrapped back inside your arms where you're controlling it again. On trail, it turns out to be the same way. People develop these plans, daily mileage plans, resupply plans, getting a ride into town plans, what shelter I'm staying at plans. They try to make all these plans for the future. And when things start happening that fall outside of that planning bubble, chaos ensues. And then they spend tons of energy and time thinking about future things, and instead of looking around and just being soaked in the present. And that's why on trail, when this finally came into my awareness of how much over planning was disrupting the experience I was having, could I finally start letting go of some of it and just trusting that everything was going to unfold in front of me the way it was supposed to unfold, and that things would happen exactly as the universe intended them. And that's when the experience changed from what it was like being at home and I just drug that out on trail to what it was like being on trail without all that anxiety and my home stuff that I drug out there, left all that behind eventually, and just enjoyed hiking that trail. Now, all over planning isn't bad. In fact, some planning is required on the AT to make sure you're safe and make sure you have what you need to be successful on trail. That's where we're going to get into the underplanners next week or in the next episode, talking about how sometimes their underplanning creates a safety hazard for themselves and maybe even others. But for this week, let's talk about the positives. Some of the positives that we know that overplanning could have during our thru hike. The first one, it eases our mental state because it makes us feel like we have some control over what's happening. This control makes us feel good. It kind of gives us some confidence that as we move down the trail, things will unfold the way that we want them. Here's some of the downsides that I've noticed from people who think this way, though. The first being they normally carry too much stuff in their backpack. Why? Because they're thinking through all the contingencies before they ever happen. And they have a pack filled with contingency items. Not just the things that they must have to hike every day, but the what ifs, the nice to haves, just in case this happens or this happens. And what that does is load you down with unnecessary equipment, puts more load on the body, which then affects your mental state as you get more tired and more exhausted climbing those steep ass mountains that are on that trail. So although it makes us feel like we're in control a little bit more, what it really does is burden us with a whole lot of extra equipment that we have to carry that does us really no good other than trying to comfort the anxiety that we have in our mind. Tying into our introvert-extrovert conversation that we had last episode, the second positive to overplanners are they can be seen as a parent figure, meaning people start latching on to the overplanner to do the planning so they can sit back and enjoy their experience and just rely on that person. Now, who tends to be overplanners? Introverts. Why do introverts tend to be overplanners? Because it gives them a role inside the social group. When they interact with people in a social setting that they're really uncomfortable with most days, they now have a role. And if they get to control that role and the decisions made from that role, then that introvert can intermix with that group without all the anxiety. This may not make sense if you're not an introvert or if you haven't thought through this. But I can stand up on a stage and I can brief thousands of people. And at the end of it, people will think that dude is such an extrovert. But then I won't show up to any kind of parties or unscripted events. The reason being, on stage and in those work events, there's a structure. I have a role. I control that role. In the unscripted environments like a party or a social gathering, there is no role. That stresses me out. I don't know what's going to happen next. And this is what the overplanner's doing on trail. They play that role. They become the family's parent or their mama figure or the planner for the group. Now, what are some of the downsides to that? You take on all the stress and anxiety for the entire group, not just yourself because you're overplanning, but now you have the weight and the burden of everybody's success on you. And this means as you're approaching town day and you're looking for hostels and rides and resupplies, all the burden is now on you. Instead of you just being able to survive the trail, have some good experiences in the present moment, your trail experience has now just turned into always looking forward, always anxious, always hoping to take care of everybody and convincing yourself that you're having the same experience everybody else is. Well, you're not. You just drug your home life and what you enjoy at home out on trail. And if you think about over planning and anxiety, it's really not working for you at home either. Like it's disrupting your ability to be present in the moment at home. And now you drug that out on trail. And now everybody's leaning on you to make their experience go right. And it's too much pressure. It's just not the experience that's going to lead you to having the experience that the trail can provide. You're worried too much about control and not about just being. And maybe the last positive that I can think about truly is it gives your mind something to focus on when things get hard, and that might be a mental benefit to you. The downside to that, I think, is you are using the mental energy that you need to keep moving down the trail. You're wasting a lot of that by running these planning algorithms and worrying about tomorrow and all these other things that aren't affecting anything right now. It's just taking the energy that you need now and projecting it into the future, and you trying to control something that honestly you really have no control over. So I know I jump back and forth between positives and then the negatives of those positives, but this is just the way my brain thinks. Like anytime we lay out one side of the argument, my brain instantly wants to jump to the other side to try to meet somewhere in the middle. So where is that middle ground? I think the first piece to finding the middle ground is just realizing the universe is in control of all experiences on that trail. Doesn't mean you can't pull out your cell phone and plan a shuttle ride at the next road crossing. But you can't control if that shuttle ride shows up. You can have the fear of hitchhiking and try to do everything you can to never have to hitchhike, but you don't control the people showing up. And trust me, they don't always show up. So one thing I'm going to nudge you to do right now is at your first major road crossing, and I say that's Diggs Creek Gap heading northbound. That's a major road going into Hiawassee. Let that be your first experience to hold your thumb out and try to hitchhike. Man, that's scary for some. I'd rather just pick up the phone and call a shuttle service and pay $40 to get into town. That's what went through my head a lot until I hitchhiked for the first time. Then I realized this person that just stopped and gave me a ride is an amazing human being that I got to spend 15 minutes with as I rode into town. And without that, without me just letting go of control, me and that human would have never come into contact. And it's an amazing experience when you just let go and let the universe provide for you. Some of you are thinking, well, there's dangers to that. There's dangers. Humans are dangerous. There's no doubt. So I'm guessing by the time you get to Diggs Creek Gap, you're going to probably be with one or two hikers, if not more. So do it as a group, as 2 or 3 folks, and try to hitchhike into town. And I promise you won't stand there long, because people, especially down south, want to help you. They're good humans looking to help good humans. So let the universe connect you. Hold your thumb out and watch what happens. You know, the other thing that happens when you try to plan rides, you'll plan a shuttle ride out a day earlier, and then you have a specific time you have to be there. And now you have just restricted your entire experience to having to be at that spot and meet that person there at the time that you scheduled. However, you haven't walked the terrain between you and that place. There may be amazing views that you're going to run past. There may be experiences that you want to have that now you can't because you have to be there at a certain time. When we learn to just lean back and let the universe have control, then we don't have to be at these road crossings at a certain time. We just show up. And you know what happens? A lot of times there's a ride waiting for you there.
Awesome. Now can we get a ride?
This is how you do it. Got to the trailhead and had my thumb out. Nobody was picking me up. A couple had just got hiking. I guess they were just in front of me and pulled up and said, hey, you want to live in the town? Nicest couple in the world. So here we are, McDonald's. Gonna finish this, go over to Price Chopper, get what resupply items I need, then call the hostel and they'll come grab me. There's people that have been hiking, day hiking, and then get back to their car and offer you a ride. Amazing people. Or you stick your thumb out and watch what happens. Don't be so quick to over control and over plan your hike. You have to learn, we have to learn to let the universe have control and us only nudge the wheel every now and then when we think we need to. But what I've learned since the hike is we never need to. That's our fear, thinking that we need to reach up and grab the wheel. You know, another way that we can meet in the middle, and when I say meet in the middle, I mean our fears are here, the universe is here just saying let go. Initially, you're going to have to meet somewhere in the middle for you to be comfortable enough to go do this. So another way to do that is for you to ask yourself, why am I so concerned with planning out things like my daily mileage, where I'm going to stay, what resupply boxes are going to meet me at every single town stop? Like, you have to understand why you personally feel like you need to do that to control the experience. Because until you can answer that question for yourself, and it's different for each one of us, you're not going to be able to override it. You're going to spend your time on trail so concerned with having control of what's next that you're never going to enjoy the journey in the first place. For that short amount of time that you're going to be on trail, whether it's only a couple of days and you decide to get off, or you're on there for 7 months until you reach Katahdin, let go of normalcy and lean on the universe to provide for you. You hear the phrase, the trail provides. If you haven't hiked that trail, you don't understand what that means yet. None of us can explain to you, words cannot explain to you what that means. But every thru-hiker that has stayed on that trail long enough completely understands what that phrase means. It's the craziest thing. When you are in need of something on that trail, it manifests for you. Some of your brains are like, what? What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. The universe will provide what you need when you need it on that trail. It might not give you what you desire. That's different. But it will give you what you need when you need it. That you have to trust. You will never come to that realization if you continue to grab the little steering wheel. Remember, for those who've heard it before, you got those shopping carts at the grocery store that have the little kiddie steering wheels on them to occupy your children while you're shopping. That's you. That's you and your overplanning. Just going to town on that little fake steering wheel when it's really the universe behind you pushing the buggy. Last but not least, I think another way to move towards the middle, to where you have the confidence to still go out there, but to also let go of some of your overplanning, is the desire to have conversations on trail that aren't always about logistics. You see, overplanners, when you meet them on trail, you know them instantly, because the conversations are going to switch to logistics almost instantly. They're not having conversations about, hey, how are you? Who are you? What's your background? It's, hey, what's the trail? What's the trail supposed to be like on up ahead? When's the next water stop? What are you doing in the next town? What shelter are you staying at tonight? It's all about logistics. Again, some of that's required, but not a lot of it. Having deeper conversations and getting to know humans at a deeper level is the magic of that trail. Not having to be consumed with what's next and the logistics of everything is the magic of that trail. Don't miss the magic because you can't get your mind out of the way of overplanning. Now let me make one concession for all you mega overplanners, you spreadsheet people. If you still have to have a spreadsheet because you're not going to leave home if you don't have something in those little Excel blocks telling you how many miles you're going to go each day, do yourself this favor. Only plan the first 3 days and then plan nothing else. Because what happens is, let's say you have 8 miles planned for day 1 and it pours rain and it's miserable and you decide to stop at Stover Creek, which is only 2 miles in. Now what for your plan? Now what? Are you going to do your day 2 goals plus the extra 6 miles? Of course not. Anything past day one is really too much. You have to be willing to get on trail, adapt to the things that happen, and just let go. So if you got to use a spreadsheet, 3 days only, and then let it go. All right, y'all. I hope this was beneficial. I love having these conversations, but what I love more are reading the comments and the experiences that you folks have either had or you think you're going to have. I would love for past thru hikers to get down in the comments and just talk about your tendencies to overplan. Now, if you're an underplanner, just know the next episode is going to be for you. So you don't have to come on here making your excuses now. We're coming for you on the next episode. But for now, let's hear the overplanners and how you learned to plan effectively to where you weren't doing too much or too little, but you found your comfort zone. For me, my comfort zone was looking at my guidebook first thing in the morning, and then when I packed up my tent, the guidebook, my watch, and my phone went in my backpack. And they couldn't come out until lunch. And then I'd look at them, put them back up, and they couldn't come back out until I reached the end of my day. That was how I did it. And that took me all the way to Maine to figure that out. I'd love to hear comments from those who have done it before and figured it out. And I'd love to hear comments from those who are planning right now. This episode is going to smack some of you right in the face. And I don't mean in a rough way. I mean, you're going to be like, holy cow, I am over planning. And you're going to convince yourself that it's still okay. You got to sort this out on your own. This one video isn't going to get you to stop over planning. I just want to make you more aware of it so you can let it go faster on trail and have the experience that the universe wants you to have. That the universe is crafting just for you, as long as you let go and let it happen. All right, y'all. We'll see you here next week. I don't mention it often, but I'll mention it this episode. I have a book called Pushing North. Link is down in the description. If you're about to thru-hike, read the book. It's very cheap on Amazon. I don't make hardly any money off the book. I don't care about that. I wrote the book so people can have a better experience on trail because they understand what their mind is doing to them. That's what the whole book is about. Your mental landscape and how to use your mind more effectively on trail. All right, y'all. Appreciate all of you. Look forward to reading your comments. We'll see you next week.